Innovation has driven the development of the supply chain, from the pioneering of hydropower through ongoing oil and gas activity to the rapidly emerging new energy sectors, including micropower, offshore wind, marine and hydrogen energy. Breakthroughs in major front-end energy production technologies, particularly in renewable devices themselves, are more visible, but supply chain and other more background innovations are sometimes less obvious. These products and service innovations, some making global-scale impacts on the energy industry, reflect the dynamism and resourcefulness of the UK's supply chain. Over the next 30 minutes, the programme will recognise the complexity of the supply chain across the energy industry as we search for greater sustainability through innovative and dynamic solutions.
Micropower Council was formed in 2004, and since then it's been at the leading edge of advocacy for sustainable production of energy from the built environment. So we represent the whole range of technologies, from the solar PV, the installation that's going on behind me now, right through the heating technologies such as heat pumps, biomass, solar panels that produce heat as well as electricity, the full range of technologies where they're produced from buildings whose primary purpose is not to produce energy.
Microgeneration has the potential to generate 1/3 of all the country's electricity needs from within people's homes. So this represents a real revolution to the way energy is generated and used. So I think people will look back in the years to come and think how quaint that we used to buy power from power stations, now we generate it ourselves. It won't put power stations out of business, but it'll certainly give power to the people. So it really can revolutionize home energy.
I think we need all of the solutions in the sustainable energy mix if we are to meet the government's targets, and provided we have all those, they're absolutely achievable. Some of the large-scale solutions do have difficulties with public buy-in, and that's where microgeneration can really help, because if the public see microgeneration solutions in their homes, in their offices, everywhere in the built environment, it reconnects people with where their energy comes from, and it really does help that conversation as to why some of the bigger solutions are necessary too.
I think the future for microgeneration in this country is bright. I think that has a huge role to play as part of an integrated renewable and wider energy policy. I think its potential to contribute towards energy security, carbon reduction, and perhaps in the case of microgeneration, the creation of thousands of green sustainable jobs is tremendous.
The Robot organisation was born out of an invention. Engineers were having trouble with fatigue failures in the steelworks. And a young engineer had great problems trying to solve the problem through traditional bolting techniques. So he came up with the rotor bolt invention by sticking a small mechanical strain gauge into a fastener, which is very easy to use, very simple and very accurate. He stopped the fatigue failures. And from that came Rotorbolt Limited. We then grew nicely over the years across all industries. Our very first applications were indeed in offshore with Shell and BP on structural subsea bolting and also subsea gas flanges. And we were very successful on solving their problems. Now we're used across the industrial spectrum in petrochemical, offshore, mining, power generation, transport, and even wind energy, the new greener technologies. Today, our best customers are some of the biggest companies on this planet.
The McLean Electrical Group supplies a very wide range of equipment for oil and gas markets, particularly offshore here from Aberdeen. We are big distributors of marine cables, power and instrumentation, cable support systems, cable accessories, hazardous area switchgear and lighting, and we supply this type of equipment to the oil operators themselves, the drilling companies, and the oil and gas contractors working in the North Sea. What differentiates McLean Electrical Group from the competition would be our 40 years experience in the oil and gas industry, both at home and overseas, the wide range of services we have to offer, and without doubt the quality of our staff, which is made up of a very good mix of technical and commercial people. The McLean Electrical Group's main objectives is to gain greater market share, both here in the UK and in Europe, and to spread our services further afield in other oil and gas markets across the world.
I'm head of the Centre for Diagnostic Engineering, and laboratories in this area of the university specialise in improving the reliability, the efficiency and the green credentials of all types of machinery. There's never been as much pressure as there is today upon the designers and the manufacturers of machines to make them safe, reliable and green. The pressures come from a variety of sources, including government, legislation, prices of fuel, diminishing world reserves and the economic climate that we presently find ourselves in. The root cause of one of the major reasons for inefficiency and unreliability in mechanical machines is friction. Friction causes heat to be generated, it causes surfaces to wear and it causes power to be lost. To put this into perspective, the drivetrain and engine in a typical car has an overall efficiency of about 20%. Furthermore, about 30% of the fuel that's used by that car is used in overcoming the effects of mechanical friction. Staff in the research centre here have been working closely with our colleagues in the School of Applied Sciences, analytical chemists, to evaluate and optimise the formulation of a particular additive that goes into oil to reduce friction. The product, which is called Low-Frix, works at a molecular level. It's an additive to lubricant, and the independent evaluation that the university is performing is showing that it substantially reduces the effects of friction. To put this into perspective, if we consider a typical car, the kind of car that you and I would drive to work, 30% of its fuel is used in overcoming the effects of friction. Furthermore, the power plant, the engine and the gearbox within that car are only in total about 20% efficient. Friction causes power to be lost and surfaces to wear. Clearly there's a very large incentive for engineers to reduce the adverse effects that friction has.
Climate change and security of supply challenges have placed energy high on the national and international agendas, recognising this as a global issue that will need a collective approach across countries, industries and sectors. The challenges the energy sector faces are creating market opportunities to deliver innovative solutions where the UK is well placed to take advantage. The challenges the energy sector faces are creating market opportunities to deliver innovative solutions where the UK is well placed to take advantage. A significant number of UK businesses are world leading and have a presence along the entire energy supply chain, from exploration, resource extraction and processing to power generation transmission, distribution and energy service provision. In addition, supporting industries such as materials, electronics and engineering services in the UK will benefit.
Rotable technology is a highly innovative product and very attractive to the offshore industry. Our initial usage by Shell and BP for subsea structural bolting and gas flange bolting, it was selected because those engineers had realised that the traditional techniques were not working for them. The traditional techniques were behind the unreliability, the leak failure, the structural slip failure. So they were looking for a technological route to improve this reliability. For future development, we have a number of development strands. One area, of course, is finding different ways of measuring bolt tension by using telemetry, by using fibre optics, for special applications that provides continuous monitoring to some of our customers. Our main development thrusts really, though, are increasing the applicability of current product to applications out there in industry. Innovative technology is of vital importance to offshore operations. There are already situations out there which is a concern to health and safety organisations about the level of leaks from bolted flanges in topside process. Innovation in reliability of bolted joints can eliminate those leaks. The innovation, we feel, tends to come from individuals in offshore operating companies. Those individuals who see the value of innovative products are the ones who tend to take on our technology and then benefit from it in terms of reliability and reduced cost.
The McLean Electrical Group has more than 40 years' experience in the oil and gas market worldwide. We utilise the very best available electronic systems and we employ a superb team.
What differentiates McLean Electrical from the competition, I would say, would be quality, service and investment. We've invested heavily in facilities here We've got stock in excess of £3 million of electrical components, and we employ the most experienced personnel in our sector. We have state-of-the-art IT systems, a BSIFA certified workshop that assembles junction boxes and control stations. In addition to that, we have a training facility that's offered free of charge to all our client base. We supply hazardous area and industrial electrical equipment to the UK oil and gas sector. This includes hazardous area lighting, junction boxes, cable supports and small components like cable ties.
Bespoke products are important on the project side of our business, whereby each client has an individual specification. We have cables manufactured specifically to meet the requirements of that specifications, whereas on our distribution side we rely on international standards already recognised, of which we have backup stocks which meet those requirements.
I think what's fundamentally important if government wants the industry's help in meeting its carbon and renewables targets is that it understands how business operates, and that often is about the forensic details of how the policies are implemented and what's going to make a difference to successful businesses. And for that, the key is long-term regulatory stability as well as ambitious incentives. And that engagement between business and government is something that we take extremely seriously. We spend a lot of time with our members understanding what makes them tick commercially. We spend a lot of time with civil servants and with politicians trying to understand their objectives, and we see our role as marrying the two together so that we have a policy framework that really works very effectively for the business sector in the microgeneration industry.
The introduction of air source heat pumps brings not only a phenomenal reduction in carbon emissions, I think, as my property has shown just within the last 12 months, and I know that's replicated at many times, so that would definitely help the government meet its ambitious carbon reduction targets going into the future. The savings I made, 30% against gas and over 50% against oil, clearly there are implications there on the fuel poverty. Most fuel poverty, of which there are, I believe, over 5 million homes in the country now, are off gas grid. So there's real savings with oil would be applicable to them.
I've spent my entire life trying to persuade people that we have to change our ways to create the wealth that we need without causing so much environmental damage. So oil at $100 a barrel, for instance, is really bad news for all of us. Accelerating climate change is causing damage all around the world and threatens the well-being of all future generations. But I've also argued throughout that time that changing our ways will be very good for people, both in terms of improved quality of life and in terms of new jobs, new skills, new market opportunities. It's just that we have to get very smart indeed about innovation, about technology, about efficiency. So when I first heard about Lofrix, its potential to make a contribution in this area was immediately apparent to me. If you think about it, reducing wear and tear in engines, in any kit with moving parts, means that you can reduce maintenance costs, reduce energy consumption, and at the same time reduce emissions of CO2 and other greenhouse gases. All good things for the future.
Optimizing the supply chain is critical to maximizing production in tough conditions. It is a challenge, and therefore overcoming it can deliver surprising results. The supply chain in the energy sector has finally graduated to being a lot more than a necessary but mundane process. It is recognized as a strategic tool to achieve and sustain high productivity. Key technology areas that address technologies that underpin the energy sector, such as advanced materials, high-value manufacturing and electronics, photonics, and electrical systems.
The McLean Electrical Group is a leading player in the supply chain, particularly here in Aberdeen. Our big concern is, as we move ahead, the tax regime here in the UK remains competitive. Many smaller operators have moved into the North Sea and have created a lot of work over the last 10 years. We would like to see that maintained and, where possible, improved. If we do not have a competitive tax regime, we will lose a lot of that investment to possibly areas like West Africa, the former Soviet Union, or indeed elsewhere. It is critical that the tax regime is kept really competitive here in the UK.
The oil and gas industry expects, through the supply chain, continuity of supply and various efficiencies. These efficiencies therefore drive costs down. We outsource a lot of our non-core responsibilities to other companies and focus on our core areas of supply. One of the key elements in the supply chain that I feel we're responsible for is quality of the product, which is paramount for us. We're supplying a lot of equipment to hazardous areas, and we have to have the best quality materials supplied to ensure safety offshore.
At this branch we specialise in hazardous area ATEX certified electrical material. For instance, light fittings to be used on offshore and onshore oil and gas installations. We supply all the cable supports for offshore, from the cable ladder, cable tray, to the cable ties to secure the cable onto the tray or the ladder. The cable ladder is used for the heavier duty cables and more capacity for cables to be run along it, whereas the cable tray is used for the more lighter duty applications.
Lowfrix is unique in my experience. It seems to work by applying an ionic bond to the surfaces through the application of a nanotechnology. That is, a thin surface is created on both the surfaces so they no longer rub one against the other. I've seen examples of a 25% improvement in performance in terms of lowering energy, whilst at the same time extending the life of that piece of machinery by up to 800%. That's bottom line money, because about 2% of all the gross domestic product in the UK is consumed in putting right the wear in surfaces. That's equivalent to £20 billion a year in the UK. In the United States, that would be $200 billion worth of cost, and across Europe, our estimate is 150 billion euros.
How a heat pump works is it takes all the energy that's in the air that's put in here every day by the sun, and via this fan that's running, it pulls the air round the back, and within the heat pump there is a liquid. The liquid absorbs all the heat that's coming through from the air and it turns it into a gas. That gas then goes through an electric pump that's also in the heat pump that turns it into a high pressure gas, and with being high pressure it also becomes high temperature. That high temperature gas is then fed into the water, which via these pipes then just goes into your house as hot water, as a normal traditional heating system would do. And it just continually does that all the time. Another important thing to remember with air source heat pumps is not just on a beautiful day like today it will work, even when there's frost on the ground, minus 15, 20 degrees, it will still continue to work and produce enough heat for your home, providing it's been correctly sized. And regarding green jobs, the unit I have installed in my house was built at our factory in Scotland, so that's already producing. It's a world-class manufacturing facility creating green jobs, producing microgeneration, for not just for the UK, but for the whole of Europe.
The overall install took around about 2 days, from sticking up the scaffolding and then installing the panels into the roof. The guys that did it were really professional. They sheeted up the chairs and kept it really clean. And also, of course, when they left the site, they explained to us how it worked and how it all held together.
A significant amount of Robol business is driven by issues with our customers. We find that they tend to live with bolty joint unreliability for quite lengthy periods of time, until they either have a change of personnel or a change of policy within the company that identifies the impact of this unreliability. Things such as pressure containment leaks in a refinery, We know of organisations that live with leaks over a 15, 20-year period, surprisingly. And then there's a mindset change, and that can come from change of personnel or from a change of policy within that company. They may be under pressure from health and safety organisations to improve environmental effects. They may be under pressure from health and safety organisations to improve safety, to prevent a fire, to prevent an explosion. This change in mindset then opens the way for a technology-driven solution such as robot control. So initially, we go in as a cure to the issue, but they quickly realise that we're much more than a cure. We are a long-term prevention. We're going to give reliability for the future. No more leaks, no more fatigue failures, no more vibration loosening.
As global energy demand rises, countries are realising that there is growing need for policies aimed at delivering higher energy supplies and changing the patterns of distribution and use of energy in order to ensure energy security, sustain economic development, and reduce GHG emissions. In addition, customer behaviour and changes in current practices, technological innovations and research in energy will be of crucial importance in achieving these goals. Innovation must create the basis for a sustainable, efficient energy supply in the world, which meets the social and economic needs of a growing population.
Now, we have to be upfront about this. Creating wealth sustainably means that we are going to have to stop doing some things. We can't go on burning coal in hopelessly inefficient power stations. We can't go on driving gas guzzlers as if it had no impact on other people. And it means we have to do some things that we're not doing at all at the moment. We have to think about renewables and photovoltaic cells, for instance, on millions of roofs in this country and elsewhere. But most importantly, what we've got to get used to is doing many of the things that we do today, but doing them much, much more efficiently. And for me, that's the real potential for Lowfrix. This is a big engineering challenge. And I've been intrigued to see how it's the engineers in the companies that are now getting interested in Lowfrix who have begun to see the huge potential that this can bring to them. Obviously, this is a massive transformation across the whole of the global economy, so no one product, no one innovation is going to provide all of the answers. But I am convinced that Lowfrix has a significant contribution to make to that process.
Energy costs have increased by about 25% in the last year, and our profiles show those continuing to rise by about 25% each year for the years to come. Anything that puts a downward pressure on energy costs and reduces emissions is good for business and good for the environment.
Currently, the McLean Electrical Group have operations here in the UK, extensively in the North Sea, in Europe, North Africa, Middle East, the United States, the Far East, and extensively in Australia.
On the cable side, we focus heavily on fire-resistant properties of cables. We have enhanced characteristics which we introduce into the market. We try to push this out for obvious safety reasons, along with the flexibility and ease of installation, which has a knock-on effect in terms of cost savings for the customer.
The McLean Group's vision for the future is to continue and expand in our existing markets, to seek out new markets across the world. This may be done through ourselves opening up new outlets, or it may be carried out through acquisition, as has been the case in the past.
Robolt's vision is to assure the reliability of all industrial bolted joints through the measurement of bolt tension. And hopefully that measurement will be through our systems and products. We visualise a world free from leaking joints, leaking flanges, no fires, no explosions, a cleaner environment. We envisage a world where there are no tower collapses in the middle of our cities. If our technology is used, particularly Robolt 1, Robolt 2, we believe these are realistic aspirations for industry in the future. Our main focus is to assure the reliability of all industrial bolted joints through measurement of bolt tension. It's the crucial reliability factor. It has the most impact on safety and reliability on bolted connections. The world at the moment, most of the bolted joints in engineering are tightened in an uncontrolled manner. And by that I mean they do not know what design tension objective they've achieved at the end of the tightening cycle. The reason for that is that measuring something else. They're measuring tightening power, not bolt tension. So our vision really is seeing a world that embraces the technology-driven route, measure the parameters that truly affect reliability, and then they'll be rewarded with that reliability and also reduced operating cost as a result of that.
I think the microgeneration industry in this country and in Europe has got a fantastic future. We've got generally supportive policy frameworks. They don't get all the detail right some of the time, but if we help the government get the detail right, then this industry is going to fly and we are going to have a very vibrant microgeneration sector in this country.
It's perhaps a little bit too early to tell just how much of a role solar thermal will play in helping government reach its renewable energy targets, but I think it's got tremendous potential. If with a correct policy framework behind it, I think solar thermal in the UK could be a real winner in terms of creating jobs, in terms of reducing carbon emissions and improving our energy security position.
I think to get people to invest in microgeneration, you need a bigger call upon it from, say, the government or the people or the public in general. I think at the start, or the concept is that we get the government to utilise more greener technology in new homes, and in turn the greater demand on green products will reduce the cost of a product and the development, therefore pass it back to the people that actually want to acquire this technology and utilise it for themselves.
I think it's very important that government sets a long-term, stable regulatory framework that has a package of generous financial incentives which motivate people to take up these technologies, that engages the public and sees the maximum possible deployment of these technologies in the built environment, so that we get the citizen engagement, we get businesses engaged in this agenda. We use microgeneration to help sell the message of the whole sustainability agenda. And if we have a long-term, stable regulatory framework with a generous package of financial incentives that achieves that, then just sit back and watch this industry fly.
As shown throughout the programme, the support services to the energy sector have a key role to play towards improving the conditions for innovation in the energy sector, thus helping to address the global challenge of ensuring reliable energy supply.